Scythra's 4 hearts hammered against the inner lining of his thoracic cavity as he triple-checked the readings. No error. No malfunction. The quantum signatures were undeniable. System. Analyze energy pattern Alpha 79 again. Full spectrum, he ordered, his voice steady despite the tremor in his manipulator appendages. Analysis complete, replied the station eye with characteristic precision. Configuration matches theoretical human vessel design, 98.7% probability. The word hung in the recycled air of Outpost Epsilon's sensor hub. Human. Scythra had spent 27 cycles monitoring this sector of the Confederation's border. In all that time, the most exciting event had been a rogue comet with unusual mineral composition. Now, 7 vessels of unknown configuration were approaching from uncharted space, and the system was identifying them as something that couldn't possibly exist. Humans were academic constructs, theoretical organisms used in evolutionary studies to demonstrate the dead-end nature of aggressive adaptability. Fictional creatures invented to frighten hatchlings into proper behavior. If you don't regulate your emotional patterns, you'll become as chaotic as a human. The vessels adjusted course, their energy signatures fluctuating in patterns that defied standard propulsion physics. They moved with purpose, accelerating toward the Nix corridor, a direct route to Confederation core worlds. Scythra's dermal layer flushed pale blue as protocol warred with curiosity. Standard procedure demanded immediate notification of Central Command. But reporting impossible sensor readings was the fastest way to end a career and earn permanent reassignment to some forgotten monitoring station orbiting a dying star. Display historical comparison. Match energy signatures against all known species propulsion systems, archived and theoretical. A holographic display erupted with cascading data. Hundreds of known propulsion configurations flashed and dissolved as the AI eliminated match after match. Finally, a single result pulsed insistently. Single match found. Project Pandora documentation, classified level Omega, theoretical human warp drive technology, circa Galactic year 7829. Omega classification, information so restricted that merely accessing it would trigger automated security protocols. Scythra's career wouldn't just end. Head face tribunal. Yet the vessels were accelerating. Now only 6 rotation cycles from reaching the Nix corridor. With a decisiveness that surprised even himself, Scythra initiated an encrypted data packet and routed it through 17 relay nodes before directing it to a private communication address, one not used in over 5 cycles. Nor 7, I need your expertise, sending impossible sensor data. If I'm right, everything we know is wrong. Across the hull of Outpost Epsilon, automated defense systems hummed to life, their targeting algorithms confused by the approaching vessel's erratic movement patterns. On the command deck, Station Commander Vexlor received the automated alert. Deploy intercept drones, he ordered without hesitation. Full containment protocols. Meanwhile, aboard the lead vessel Prometheus, Captain Ileana Chen leaned forward in her command chair, eyes fixed on the massive artificial structure now visible through the forward viewport. First contact protocols, people, she announced, her voice betraying only the slightest tremor. We've spent 2 centuries searching for proof we're not alone. Looks like today's the day. The bridge crew of the Prometheus exchanged glances of cautious excitement. After generations of missions finding only ruins and primitive ecosystems, humanity had finally encountered an advanced alien civilization. They had no way of knowing they were about to meet a galaxy that had been hiding from them for over a millennium, a galaxy that had turned them into legends, then tried to forget them entirely. As Outpost Epsilon's intercept drones accelerated toward the human vessels, Scythra made his final unauthorized decision. He adjusted the drone's targeting parameters, forcing them into observation mode rather than engagement posture. First contact should not begin with weapons fire, especially when meeting creatures that weren't supposed to exist. 17 security breaches to reach me. You've improved, old friend. Nor 7's crystalline exoskeleton caught the dim light of her undercity apartment as she manipulated the holographic data with practiced precision. Scythra shifted uncomfortably on the too small furniture. The undercity of Nexus Prime smelled of recycled air and forbidden technology. Can you authenticate it? Oh, it's real. Nor 7's multifaceted eyes reflected cascading code as she worked. And it's beautiful. Look at these propulsion signatures, completely illogical energy distribution, yet somehow more efficient than our best drives. The apartment walls vanished, replaced by a three-dimensional representation of the sensor data. The human vessel's movement patterns defied conventional navigation algorithms, making course corrections that seemed random yet somehow optimal. I need context, not analysis, Scythra insisted. Humans are myths, academic constructs. Yet these ships are very real, and so are humans. Nor 7 interfaced directly with her illegal quantum decryptor, the crystalline spines on her forearms glowing as they connected. I spent decades collecting fragments of redacted history. Watch. A holographic display shifted, showing dated footage of bipedal organisms in primitive pressure suits making first contact with a Confederation diplomatic team. The timestamp, 1,273 cycles ago. This can't be authentic, Scythra whispered. Access pattern Theta 9. Nor 7 commanded her system. The security around these files would have required decades to breach normally, but she'd been working on this particular encryption for most of her adult life. New footage appeared, a massive Confederation fleet surrounding a blue-green world, enormous structures being assembled in orbit. Operation Pandora's Box, Nor 7 explained, her voice hushed despite the apartment's security measures, the complete dimensional isolation of the human homeworld. Document fragments materialized, official Confederation seals prominently displayed. Evolutionary anomalies make subject species 7729. Humans, unsuitable for integration. Unpredictable cognitive processing represents potential security risk. Recommendation for temporary isolation pending further evaluation. Dimensional barrier technology projected effective containment for approximately 500 cycles. Scythra's respiratory membranes fluttered in distress. They imprisoned an entire species. Worse, Nor 7 brought up the project termination order. The isolation was temporary, a study. Political upheaval led to the project being classified, then forgotten. The barrier was never maintained. But that means the barrier should have failed over 700 cycles ago. Nor 7's voice carried a mixture of academic excitement and moral horror. Either it lasted far longer than designed, or humans broke through it themselves, Scythra finished. A priority alert suddenly burned through Scythra's security implant, the neural connection so intense it caused physical pain. His external membranes paled as the information transferred directly to his consciousness. What is it? Nor 7 demanded. The humans. Scythra struggled to process the implications. They've captured a Confederation scout ship, an Arbiter-class reconnaissance vessel with full database access. Nor 7's exoskeleton clicked as she processed this development. Then they know we exist. Worse, Scythra said. According to this alert, they're accessing historical archives. They'll soon know everything, including what was done to them. The apartment's communication system suddenly activated without command, on every screen and holographic surface across Nexus Prime. Indeed, across the entire Confederation. The same image appeared. A human female, her expression unnervingly calm despite what must have been shocking discoveries. Attention, citizens of the Galactic community, she began in perfectly translated standard speech. I am Captain Ileana Chen of Earth. We've been neighbors for a very long time without introduction. I believe we have much to discuss. Nor 7 and Scythra exchanged glances of amazement and dread. The Confederation's greatest secret hadn't just been discovered. It was now being broadcast across 17,000 worlds simultaneously. How did they override the entire communication network? Skra whispered. Nor 7's multifaceted eyes remained fixed on the human captain's face. Perhaps this is why they were locked away in the first place. The captured Confederation scout ship Arbiter had become a hive of human activity. Engineering teams swarmed through its curved corridors, methodically dismantling and analyzing technology centuries beyond Earth's development. In the vessel's central command hub, Captain Chen stood motionless, watching Earth's true history unfold before her. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice calm despite the storm raging behind her eyes. The ship's AI complied, replaying the classified footage. Once more, Chen watched massive alien vessels surrounding Earth, constructing what the Confederation had called dimensional engines, the barrier that had hidden the stars from humanity for centuries. 200 years of exploration. Commander Jackson said beside her, finding nothing but ruins and primitive life. "We thought we were alone." Her fingers tightened around the datapad containing the translated Confederation records. All that time, they were watching us, studying us like specimens. Chen's expression remained neutral, a skill honed through years of first contact simulations that had never predicted anything like this. "Not specimens," she corrected. "Weapons." She gestured, and the display shifted to Project Pandora documentation. The real reason behind humanity's isolation wasn't fear of contamination or concern for Earth's development. It was preservation. Humanity kept in storage, their unpredictable nature considered potentially useful against future threats. "They intended to release us when they needed us," Chen observed, "like opening a weapons cache." Lieutenant Rivera, their xenolinguistics specialist, looked up from her workstation. "Captain, I've finished analyzing their communication protocols. It's elegant. Their entire galactic network operates on cascading authentication. Crack one node, and you can access everything." Chen finished. "Have you verified my translation package?" Rivera nodded. "It'll work. Your message will reach every communication device in Confederation space simultaneously." Chen took a deep breath. The weight of humanity's future rested on her next decisions. 2 centuries of outward exploration, searching for other intelligent life, had led to this moment, discovering they'd been deliberately hidden away. "Dr. Patel," she called to their cultural anthropologist, "your assessment." Dr. Patel looked up from her analysis of Confederation social structures. They're hierarchical, but with distributed authority. 17 species, each with distinct physiologies and cognitive frameworks. Their technology is impressive, but their thinking is linear, predictable. She gestured to the scout ship around them. This vessel was designed for stealth, yet it never occurred to them an inferior species might capture it intact. Chen nodded, making her decision. "Rivera, prepare the broadcast. Jackson, coordinate with the fleet. I want defensive positions, but no aggressive posturing. Dr. Patel, draft a formal diplomatic recognition request emphasizing peaceful intentions. And if they respond with force?" Jackson asked. Chen's gaze returned to the historical footage, the moment when humanity was deemed too unpredictable to join galactic society. "Then we'll show them exactly why they feared us in the first place." Within the hour, Captain Chen's face appeared on billions of devices across Confederation space. The message was simple, delivered with practiced calm that masked the magnitude of its implications. Humanity had returned to a galactic stage. They never knew they'd left. Aboard the Prometheus, Chen watched the first responses flood in. Everything from official demands for surrender to ordinary citizens expressing wonder or terror at meeting the legendary humans. The Confederation's carefully maintained historical narrative was crumbling in real time. "Captain," called her communication officer, "we're receiving a direct transmission from the Confederation Council. They're requesting an emergency meeting." Chen allowed herself a small smile. Not demanding. Requesting. Progress already. The scout ship's AI had been successfully integrated with Earth's systems, providing instantaneous translation of all incoming messages. Among them, one stood out, a private communication from an outpost sensor specialist named Scythra and a historian called Nor7, offering to share the complete, unredacted history of humanity's imprisonment. Accept their communication, Chen ordered. It seems we've found allies already. The Grand Council Chamber of Nexus Prime hadn't witnessed such chaos in over 3 centuries. Representatives from all 17 Confederation species filled the ancient hall, their voices creating a cacophony that the acoustic dampeners struggled to contain. Order, demanded High Counselor Vexner, her bioluminescent patterns flashing emergency signals that cut through the noise. The Council will have order. The Draxid War speaker Krovac slammed his ceremonial war staff against the speaking stone, silencing the chamber momentarily. There is nothing to debate. The containment protocols must be reinstated immediately. These creatures, he gestured at the holographic representation of the human vessels, we're isolated for a reason. Their thought patterns are chaotic, their decision matrices unpredictable. From the luminary section, Ambassador Teeler's light patterns shifted to indicate formal disagreement. We cannot simply re-imprison an entire species because our ancestors deemed them dangerous. According to these historical records, which most of us are seeing for the first time, the isolation was temporary. A 500-cycle study that was never properly concluded. A study that protected us all. Krovac countered, his armored exoskeleton clicking with agitation. Look at what they've already accomplished. They captured one of our scout ships and within hours breached our entire communication network. Imagine what damage they could do if granted full access to Confederation technology. Throughout the chamber, delegates accessed previously classified historical records, their reactions ranging from horror to fascination as they learned the truth about humanity for the first time. The Scyphid representative Zulmar, their gelatinous form rippling with emotional indicators, addressed the assembly. Before we debate containment strategies, perhaps we should acknowledge the ethical violation committed by our predecessors. An entire sentient species was imprisoned without their knowledge or consent. Under the Sentient Rights Accord, this constitutes. Every communication display in the chamber suddenly activated simultaneously, interrupting the proceedings. Captain Chen's face appeared on each screen, her expression professionally neutral. Distinguished representatives of the Confederation, she began, her words perfectly translated by systems that should have been impenetrable. I understand this is an unprecedented situation for all of us. My species has spent centuries believing ourselves alone in the cosmos, only to discover we were deliberately hidden away. Murmurs rippled through the council as many delegates experienced their first direct interaction with a human. We come seeking understanding, not conflict, Chen continued. Earth formally requests diplomatic recognition and reparation discussions for our forced isolation. We are prepared to integrate peacefully with the galactic community. Krovac jabbed a clawed appendage at the nearest screen. You infiltrated our most secure communication channels without authorization. This only proves humans cannot be trusted to respect Confederation protocols. Chen's slight smile was unnerving in its confidence. We used the technology available to us. Technology from a scout ship your people sent to monitor us. Consider our creative approach to communication as demonstration of what humanity can offer the Confederation. High Counselor Vexner regained control of the proceedings. Captain Chen, the Council will need time to deliberate on Earth's situation. Until then. With respect, Counselor, Chen interrupted, deliberation has already begun outside these chambers. Throughout Confederation space, billions of citizens were engaging directly with humans through the communication networks. Cultural exchanges, technological discussions, and philosophical debates flourished as ordinary people bypassed official channels to learn about the legendary humans firsthand. In a corner of the council chamber, Scythra and Nor7 watched with a mixture of trepidation and hope. Their leaked evidence had catalyzed a reckoning that would reshape the Confederation forever. They aren't what we were taught, Scythra whispered. They're nothing like the monsters in our historical texts. No, agreed Nor 7, watching as a human cultural representative fielded questions from fascinated Confederation citizens. They're far more dangerous. They are reasonable. Dr. Ilara Patel stepped through the crystalline archway of the Grand Archives, the first human to walk its ancient halls in over a millennium. The massive repository of Confederation knowledge stretched before her, data crystals containing billions of historical records glowing softly in their quantum suspension fields. Please refrain from making sudden movements, instructed her luminary guide. Ambassador Teeler, his photoreceptors adjusting nervously. Some of these storage matrices are quite sensitive to vibration. Patel smiled, noting how Teeler maintained precisely 2.3 meters of distance between them, just outside what human behavioral studies identified as threatening proximity. "I'll be careful," she assured him. "My species hasn't survived this long by being reckless with knowledge." A small crowd of Confederation citizens had gathered along the Archive's public observation level, recording devices extended. Most had never seen a human outside of historical simulations or the recent broadcasts. "Is it true humans require hallucinatory states to maintain neural health?" asked a young Sifid scholar, its translucent body pulsing with academic excitement. "You mean dreaming?" Patel replied. "Yes, our brains process information through semi-random neural firing during sleep cycles. Without it, we experience severe cognitive deterioration." The gathered aliens exchanged looks of fascination and horror. The concept of surrendering consciousness to uncontrolled neural activity was deeply unsettling to species whose evolution had prioritized constant cognitive control. "And recreational fear responses?" inquired another observer. "The data packets you shared contained thousands of narrative constructs designed to trigger terror." "Horror stories," Patel explained. "They help us process difficult emotions in controlled environments." As she moved through the archives, Patel noted how the aliens tracked her movements, analyzing her gait, posture, and micro-expressions. She was simultaneously research subject and researcher, a position that felt strangely appropriate given humanity's history with the Confederation. Meanwhile, in the Science Ministry's Engineering Division, a very different cultural exchange was unfolding. "That's not the correct repair protocol," protested Chief Engineer Ziv Cole as Lieutenant Maya Ortiz disassembled a malfunctioning gravitational stabilizer. "The recalibration sequence requires—" "With all respect," Ortiz interrupted, her hands already reconfiguring the device's internal components, "your repair protocol assumes replacing the degraded quantum resonator. I'm bypassing it entirely." The gathered Confederation engineers watched in stunned silence as Ortiz completed a repair that their procedural manuals deemed impossible. The stabilizer hummed back to life, its efficiency readings actually higher than factory specifications. "How did you know that would work?" demanded Ziv Cole. Ortiz shrugged. "I didn't, but the resonance pattern suggested it might." This seemingly casual admission sent a ripple of discomfort through the alien observers. The Draxid military attaché actually swayed on his feet, his exoskeleton clicking in distress. "You modified critical infrastructure based on an untested hypothesis," he clarified, his translated voice pitched higher than normal. "That's how we learn," Ortiz replied. "Calculated risks based on incomplete data. If I'd followed standard procedures, we'd still be waiting for a replacement part." Across Nexus Prime, similar scenes unfolded as humans demonstrated problem-solving approaches that defied Confederation cognitive models. Humans learned alien languages by identifying patterns rather than following linguistic algorithms. They navigated social interactions by reading subtle cues rather than adhering to programmed protocols. In the diplomatic quarter, Captain Chen received Scathra and Nor 7 aboard the Prometheus. As they toured the human vessel, Nor 7's analytical instruments recorded everything. The seemingly illogical layout of control systems, the redundant safety protocols, the blend of cutting-edge technology and simple mechanical backups. "Your ship design prioritizes adaptability over efficiency," Nor 7 observed. Chen nodded, Because we expect the unexpected. Scythera's 4 hearts beat in an irregular pattern as understanding dawned. That's what makes you dangerous to the Confederation. Not aggression. Unpredictability. Not dangerous. Shen corrected with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Just difficult to control. The memory vaults beneath Nexus Prime hadn't been accessed in their entirety for generations. Unlike the public archives above, these repositories contained the Confederation's darkest secrets. Failed experiments, abandoned weapons programs, and classified historical records deemed too dangerous for general knowledge. Commander Jackson moved silently alongside Nor-7, their path illuminated only by the historian's bioluminescent exoskeleton. 3 security checkpoints had been bypassed using access codes provided by sympathetic council members, a small but growing faction supporting transparency about humanity's containment. These records predate modern Confederation history, Nor-7 explained, her crystalline appendages interfacing with an ancient data terminal. What we're searching for would have been buried during the Third Reformation. Jackson nodded, her military training keeping her alert despite the overwhelming alienness of the environment. And you believe it contains the true reason for Earth's isolation. Project Oracle, Nor-7 confirmed, mentioned only in fragments throughout other classified documents. Always redacted, always associated with human containment protocols. The terminal activated, holographic symbols in an archaic Confederation script, materializing in the stale air. Nor-7 worked methodically, translating and navigating through layers of encrypted data, while Jackson maintained watch. There, Nor-7 whispered eventually. Project Oracle, initiated in Galactic year 7826. The holographic display expanded, showing a predictive model of unprecedented complexity. Intersecting probability matrices extended outward from the Confederation's borders toward the intergalactic void. It's a threat assessment algorithm, Jackson observed, her tactical training allowing her to recognize patterns despite the alien format. They were tracking something. Nor-7's exoskeleton paled as she processed the data. Not tracking. Predicting. The early Confederation developed quantum probability models to anticipate external threats. Her voice became hushed. They called it the void convergence. The display shifted, showing mathematical representations of a vast entity moving between galaxies, consuming civilizations through methods that Jackson's translator struggled to convey. Hive mind consciousness, Nor-7 attempted to explain. But unlike anything the Confederation had encountered, it absorbed technological civilizations by exploiting the inherent predictability of advanced species. Jackson's expression hardened as understanding dawned. And humans were unpredictable. Precisely. Nor-7 brought up another file, the original containment order for Earth. Humanity wasn't quarantined out of fear. You were preserved, a biological weapon of last resort against an enemy that could predict every move of a logical, optimized civilization. We were their secret weapon, Jackson murmured. A species that couldn't be modeled mathematically. But the project leaders died during political purges, Nor-7 continued. Their contingency plans were buried, the true purpose of human containment forgotten. What began as strategic preservation became mythologized fear. Before Jackson could respond, emergency alerts blared throughout the facility, a sound Nor-7 hadn't heard in her lifetime. The historian's translation implant struggled with the archaic warning pattern. Perimeter breach, she finally decoded. Multiple sectors, simultaneous incursion. The display terminal automatically shifted to current Confederation defense grids. 3 outposts at the galaxy's edge had gone silent simultaneously. Long-range sensors showed massive structures emerging from subspace, geometrically impossible configurations that seemed to distort the fabric of reality around them. Convergent scout ships, Nor-7 whispered, her exoskeleton nearly translucent with fear. Decades before the earliest projections, Jackson's military training took over. We need to get this information to Captain Shen immediately. As they rushed from the memory vaults, the Confederation's most advanced defensive algorithms were already engaging the intruders, and failing. Each countermeasure was anticipated, each defensive formation neutralized with mathematical precision. In the council chambers above, panicked leaders watched their carefully optimized battle plans crumble against an enemy that had consumed thousands of similarly logical civilizations. From the observation gallery, Captain Chen studied the tactical displays with narrowed eyes. She stepped forward, addressing the council without protocol or permission. "Your defensive algorithms are predictable," she stated flatly. "Against an enemy that feeds on predictability, that's suicide." The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the human. "Perhaps," Chen suggested with grim determination, "it's time to try something they won't expect. This violates 17 fundamental principles of spatial combat." Admiral Javek's translucent tentacles writhed in agitation as he studied Captain Chen's battle plan. "These formations have no logical coherence." "That's the point," Chen replied calmly, manipulating the holographic display in the Confederation war room. Around them, military leaders from a dozen species watched with mixtures of skepticism and desperation. "The convergence anticipates logical responses. We need to be illogical." The proposed formations seemed chaotic, vessels grouped in asymmetrical clusters, attack vectors that deliberately exposed vulnerabilities, feints that sacrificed efficiency for unpredictability. "We call it chaos doctrine," explained Commander Jackson. "Developed from Earth's naval history, specifically battles where technologically inferior forces defeated superior ones through unexpected tactics." Admiral Javek's skin pulsed with stress patterns. "You expect us to entrust our most advanced vessels to historical reenactment? Your most advanced algorithms failed within minutes," Chen countered. "The convergence has encountered thousands of optimized battle strategies. It's never faced human unpredictability." High Counselor Vexner intervened, her authority silencing further objections. "The Admiral raises valid concerns, Captain Chen, but our options are limited. The convergence has already consumed 3 outposts and adapted to every counteroffensive. We will implement your strategy." Within hours, the combined human Confederation fleet approached the convergence forces in formations that made the Confederation tactical AIs issue continuous error warnings. Human operators manually controlled key Confederation vessels, executing maneuvers so erratic the ship's safety systems required override codes. Aboard the command carrier, Chen watched as the convergence response unfolded. "They're adjusting to match our apparent vulnerabilities," she noted. "Exactly as predicted." "Predicted?" Admiral Javek questioned. "I thought unpredictability was your strategy." "The unpredictability is predictable," Chen explained, a small smile playing at her lips. "We're creating a pattern of chaos that appears random but contains hidden purpose." The convergence forces, which had previously anticipated every Confederation move, began to commit resources inefficiently, overreacting to feints, ignoring actual threats, struggling to identify the underlying logic of movements designed to have none. Meanwhile, at Research Outpost Gamma, Dr. Patel worked alongside Confederation specialists on what they called a cognitive dissonance bomb, a device designed to disrupt the convergence's hive mind architecture. "The concept is inspired by human sleep cycles," Patel explained to her astonished colleagues. "During REM sleep, our brains process information through semi-random neural firing. What if we could induce something similar in the convergence consciousness?" The luminary quantum physicist, Tyrrell, clicked his photoreceptors in sudden understanding. "Force their collective mind to dream. That's completely irrational," finished Patel. "Exactly. Their consciousness has evolved to process information through perfect mathematical logic. We're going to introduce illogical elements, cognitive paradoxes, self-referential loops, emotional impulses they have no framework to process." As the battle in space reached its critical phase, the prototype device was rushed to the front lines. The convergence forces had begun to falter against the unpredictable assault, creating an opening for a strike team led by Captain Chen to approach the central convergence node. The modified shuttlecraft carried the device toward its target, evading defenses through maneuvers that no eye would have attempted due to the extreme risk factors. "They're adapting," warned the Draxid pilot as enemy response patterns shifted. "Their algorithms are attempting to identify the underlying pattern in our movements." Chen took manual control, her hand steady on the unfamiliar alien controls. "Then let's show them something truly unpredictable. Prepare for emergency vector change on my mark." She closed her eyes briefly, visualizing a maneuver from Earth's ancient naval history, a desperate gambit from a battle long forgotten by all but human military historians. "Now," Chen ordered, executing a tactical approach that had no basis in spatial physics, no foundation in logical doctrine, only in the chaotic history of human warfare. The shuttle lurched, systems protesting as it performed a maneuver no Confederation simulator would have considered viable. The convergence defenses, programmed to counter logical attack vectors, failed to intercept. They had reached the node. Humanity's unique gift, chaos, had created their first real advantage against the perfect logic of the void convergence. The Prometheus shuddered as Captain Chen guided it through the fractured space surrounding the convergence command structure. Warning indicators flashed across every console, hull integrity compromised, shield harmonics failing, dimensional stabilizers operating beyond safety parameters. "Containment field generators at 63% capacity," reported Lieutenant Rivera. "The dimensional resonance is stronger than we calculated." Chen nodded, her focus absolute. The plan had worked thus far. The human-designed battle formations had created the perfect diversion, allowing the Prometheus to approach the convergence command node, while the cognitive dissonance bomb disrupted its ability to coordinate defenses. Now came the final gambit, a modified version of the very containment field once used on Earth. "The irony isn't lost on me," Chen murmured as she manually adjusted the ship's trajectory, using their own cage to trap them. Around the Prometheus, space itself seemed to warp and twist as the convergence attempted to reassert control over its fragmented consciousness. The cognitive dissonance bomb had induced something akin to dreaming in the hive mind, forcing it to process information through chaotic patterns it had no framework to understand. "Field generators at maximum capacity," Rivera announced. "Dimensional resonance locked." "We're ready, Captain." Chen took a deep breath. The mathematics were elegant in their complexity, a direct product of humanity's contradictory nature. The Confederation's technical precision combined with humanity's improvisational approach had created something the convergence couldn't anticipate. A modified containment field that would use the enemy's own dimensional distortions against it. "Activate the field," Chen ordered. Throughout the combined fleet, Confederation and human vessels executed a precisely choreographed maneuver, a battle pattern deliberately reminiscent of Earth's naval tactics from the Battle of Trafalgar. The convergence predictably countered, its forces moving to exploit apparent vulnerabilities, exactly as planned. The counterattack created a dimensional resonance pattern that, when combined with the field generators on the Prometheus, would magnify the containment effect exponentially. "Resonance pattern achieved," Rivera confirmed. "Field strength building beyond projected parameters." Chen nodded, then opened a fleet-wide channel. "All vessels withdraw to minimum safe distance. We've done our part." She switched to the ship's internal communication system. "All hands to escape pods. Evacuation is not optional." As her crew rushed to comply, Chen remained at the helm, manually guiding the Prometheus deeper into the convergence structure. The quantum field was already beginning to form around the vessel, expanding outward in fractal patterns that defied conventional physics. "Captain," came Admiral Javek's voice over the command channel. "The field is expanding faster than predicted. You must evacuate immediately." "Someone needs to ensure proper field distribution," Chen replied calmly, overriding the ship's automated safety protocols. "The Prometheus will serve as the anchor point." The ship's superstructure groaned as dimensional forces tore at its hull. Chen's fingers danced across the controls, adjusting field parameters as the expanding quantum barrier engulfed more of the convergence forces. When alarms indicated hull breach was imminent, she finally made her way to the modified escape pod, its systems enhanced with technology reverse-engineered during the brief alliance with the Confederation. As the pod ejected from the dying ship, Chen watched the Prometheus dissolve into pure energy at the heart of the quantum field. The convergence, for the first time in its million-year existence, experienced something akin to confusion as its component parts were sealed in a pocket dimension, a prison of irrational mathematics. 3 days later, Chen stood before the Confederation Council, now wearing the insignia of an admiral. The emergency session had been called to address the aftermath of the convergence encounter and humanity's new role in galactic affairs. "The containment field is holding," she reported. "But like the barrier once placed around Earth, this solution is temporary." High Counselor Vexner nodded gravely. "Then we must prepare for its eventual failure. This time, as allies." The council chambers, once filled with suspicion toward humanity, now resonated with a new emotion: hope. The historical archives had been opened completely, transforming humans from frightening myths to celebrated heroes. "The Confederation offers Earth full membership," Vexner announced formally, "and proposes a new founding principle for our alliance. Diversity of thought ensures survival." Chen accepted with a slight bow. "We have much to learn from each other, your precision and our chaos. Together they make something stronger than either alone." Across the galaxy, the legend of humanity was being rewritten, not as monsters to fear, but as the unpredictable allies who taught a perfect civilization the value of imperfection.